You're listening to the Whole Hog Sports Podcast. And now, here's your host, Matt Jones.
Things are moving fast here in Fayetteville today. Sam Pittman's out, Bobby Petrino's in, several coaches are out, several players have decommitted. We'll talk about all of it today on our podcast, but first a word from Kendall King.
At Kendall King, we're proud of over 4 decades of design. We're continuing the legacy of great creative design by combining our brands of Kendall King, Soapbox, and Shopcart. Together, these brands represent a new focus in marketing design, with individual attention to specific areas. Through our design expertise supported by a team of talented professionals, we showcase our best. We are Kendall King, we are Soapbox, we are Shopcart, we are design.
Arkansas is going to end up having to pay a lot of money to make these coaching changes. Sam Pittman, we'll see what he ends up getting paid, but the buyout says it's about $9.3 million. He'd get about another $1 million in some retention bonuses that are due to him. You're going to have to pay out some of these assistant coaches' salaries. It's a big number that is going to have to be paid in order to make this change, and it always is that way when you're making a head coaching change. You're looking at a head coaching change. I think in this day and age, depending on who you hire, it's probably going to cost a team anywhere in the neighborhood of $15 to $30 million. When you buy out your coach, you buy out their coach, you buy out assistant coaches here, there, and yonder. But the thing I wonder, Christina, is the flip side of that, the cost of not making a move, and what that costs you in I don't know if favor is the right word, but that's the word I'll use, with your fan base, and how they look at it as, inaction on your part, and whether or not you care, and how that affects you going down the road, not just this year in terms of people attending the games, in terms of people, and honestly, football success, I think, affects attendance in other sports.
Totally.
I think that there's that balance. There's that number you can see, and there's that number that you can't see, and that you can't necessarily even put a figure on, that I think Hunter Yurachek had to balance this weekend. I said last week I didn't see the value of making a head coaching change during the season unless things went terribly. And I used the other 3 teams in the Power 4 that have made changes so far and said, Oklahoma State lost by 66, and Virginia Tech lost to Old Dominion, and they got blown out at home, and UCLA looked terrible at home against New Mexico. We had not seen that from Arkansas yet. You might not like the Memphis loss, but we had not seen that terribleness yet from the football team. We saw it over the weekend. And I think that if you read Hunter Yurachek's body language on the sideline at halftime, he had to go out in a half-empty stadium, maybe more than half-empty, and give out these medals for the UA Hall of Honor inductees at halftime. As he was waiting for that ceremony while the band was on the field playing, he's walking around on the field, head down, hands in pockets, and I told you at that time, I said, that looks like the look of a man who knows what he has to do. And, it felt kind of like those last games of the Chad Morris era, where you can't get beat by that margin at home with the stands looking like they look. It's sometimes if Memphis was a tide-turning loss, I feel like Notre Dame was the one that said, hey, this is what you got to do.
Yeah, and that's just so not what I expected to happen. I really thought this game would be closer. I thought, like we said last week, I thought Arkansas would lose the game, but I thought it would be competitive close the way Arkansas's previous games had been. I just didn't expect the offense to look
They were
like
a trendy pick to beat Notre Dame.
Very. I was surprised nobody on College Game Day did, because national people kind of all week were picking Arkansas. So that was not at all how I expected it to go. Going into that game when we were talking about what the situation might look like with, okay, do you wait? Do you do it? Whatever. Do you wait for the buyout to go down? I really held that you should wait for the buyout to go down, because if you're going to get on microphones left and right and complain about how little money you have, why would you not do the thing that's going to save you a little bit of money? Now, $3 million is not like making or breaking your athletic department necessarily, but that can go toward, the hiring of the next staff. And when you didn't make a move last season, when this was different. This felt different. This felt more extreme. But when last year your fans were clamoring for you to make a move and you said you weren't going to, in large part because of the money situation, and then you see everybody in the country, for the most part, was doing similar things. People were hesitant to make moves because of the financial headwinds that were coming. If you're not going to do it then you just wait and you do it anyway with no, like you said, no benefit. You didn't save any money. You just did it later. Now,
They save a little bit of money, but not a whole lot.
Yes. And I think, with the way the last 2 games went, I understand it did feel like this is untenable at this point. Like, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you get blown out that bad, that's just, it felt like it was done. So I understand it, but there is still part of me I'm not surprised they didn't wait, but there is still part of me that's like, this is just, I don't know. It feels a little crazy given last year, like given the fact that you could have done it then, but you wanted to save the money, and then now you just didn't do it anyway.
Last year was the first time that college ADs have ever shown restraint in terms of firing coaches. They just didn't feel like they could. I mean, there were very few head coaching changes that were made, at least at the power level last year. And I think that's important because the money that's being spent at the power level on head coaching salaries is so much different than what's being spent, and therefore the buyouts are way different between the Power Four and the group of whatever, where you saw a lot of changes being made last year. I think there were only like maybe 2 or 3 Power Four jobs where the head coach was
Something
actually
like
let go and didn't leave on his own to go somewhere else. So it was a lot of restraint last year. And so Arkansas is entering, we talked with Brandon Marcello about this last week, about the potential of it, and now it's coming to fruition. They're going to enter a really hot coaches market this year. You've already got 4 Power 4 teams who have canned their head coaches. I think when this is all said and done and the dust settles between the other programs that are going to fire their coaches, there's inevitably going to be some movement from one Power 4 job to another. I think that you might be looking at somewhere around 15 to 20 or more programs that are going to be changing their coaches this offseason. And so it's going to be a crowded market. I don't know if this helps Arkansas get out ahead of everybody else and kind of put feelers out there for who might be interested or who's not interested. And I'll tell you this, if they are able to salvage this season with the way things have gone, they're not going to go any further than Bobby Petrino to be the full-time head coach. I don't think.
Yeah.
I think if he comes in and they have some level of success, and I don't know what that level of success would be, but basically where if your eye can see that they are much improved, and I don't know they can improve a whole lot because they got some real personnel problems on defense, but if they can improve over these last 7 games relative to how they've played, especially defensively, the first 5 now, there's going to be a ton of groundswell of support for people who never wanted him to go in the first place. And, I think it's going to be hard for them to say, hey, let's go look at somebody else when you have this candidate who's got so much support already built in. We've seen programs that have done this in the past. I mean, Dabble Swinney, who you covered, that's how he got his job. He was an interim coach after Tommy Bowden got fired. USC had Ed Ogeron go after Lane Kiffin was fired. He went 6-2 there. They ended up hiring Clay Helton. Didn't have a whole lot of success with him. And then Ogeron, lo and behold, 3 years later, goes 6-2 again with LSU and gets the full-time job and wins the national championship there. And there are cases, Matt Luke at Ole Miss, where you get that that real feel-good feeling after he wins the Egg Bowl, and you make a bad financial investment in him for a few years. And so this works both ways. But it's going to back to the point. It's a crowded job market. I think that there's the potential for all the jobs that are open this year that you're also resetting the market a little bit in terms of what that value of a head coach's salary is going to be moving forward. And again, you go to the comments that Juracek has made, whether it be at the Little Rock Touchdown Club or the Board of Trustees meeting last week. And Arkansas is going to have to figure something out from a financial standpoint. You make the right hire, the money frees up.
Sure.
But they got to figure something out in order to be more competitive in coaching salaries and in just everything else that goes into making it a competitive football program from a financial standpoint.
I'm thinking out loud here. I have not walked all the way out in my own head, so I want to walk it out together. Do you think that having in the last line of the press release that they put out announcing that Sam Pittman was fired, saying Bobby Petrino is the interim coach and he will have a chance to get the job. He has expressed interest in the full-time job. Obviously, every interim coach, in theory, is auditioning for the full-time job. People, like you just said, people retain the interims and make them full-time all the time. But some interims you kind of can tell are not really going to do it. And like after their first couple games, you kind of know whatever. And I think very rarely are you getting the athletic director being quoted in a release saying, and by the way, like, this guy is a candidate, this guy really wants the job.
Yeah.
Do you think that hinders at all their ability, anything that they could do attracting candidates or talking to other candidates?
I don't think
right
it hurts
now?
them. I don't think it hurts them any more than the financial comments
Yeah.
they've made, that they're not competitive to compete on a.
Do you think those things combine to do any further damage than one or the other would?
I don't know. That's a good question. And by the way, we're recording this before we talk to Hunter Yurachek and Bobby Petrino today, so maybe they have some more clarification to this. That's a good question. I thought it did kind of stick out, the fact that they tacked that line on.
I thought that was fascinating.
But also, the whole Petrino situation is fascinating, though.
Yeah,
The fact
it's
that
unique.
he was even able to be rehired in the first place. They had to have a special exception to a board policy, a UA board policy, in order to rehire him in the first place. And so I just think that it's one of those where the whole situation is just kind of extraordinary. And so you kind of have to address that elephant.
Yeah. It just seems such an odd way to address it, to me. It's like everyone knows that
everything about
interims-
coaching changes are odd.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, it's like there's a feeling you get during a coaching change where I don't even know how to explain it. What I'm trying to think, but
This is my first football coaching change, by
like,
the way, of my
anytime
career.
there's a football coaching change, it's like everything just kind of goes dark for a little bit. Like the people that would talk to you, like and the people that sometimes you trust, they don't talk a whole lot anymore. But then all of these other people, they start coming out of the book. Hey, did you know?
Yeah.
And
Because people like to show you that they know
yeah.
stuff.
And so and I mean, God help us, this is going to be a 2-month coaching
Oh my
search.
God, I know. I'm not ready.
It's bad enough when it's 2 weeks, but this is going to be 2 months. And I don't know. I just feel like the whole dynamic of everything that we do changes for like those 2 months, 2 months, and for whatever period there is that a coaching.
I mean, the
change is
Calipari search,
occurring.
we saw it a little bit. I wasn't taking the lead on that. I was so new in this role when that happened. And I don't, I'm not our lead basketball person or anything, but the Calipari search was kind of my first sort of foray into, major coach search
Yep.
times. And that was, I definitely got that feeling. It's very interesting.
During
It's
a
interesting
coaching
for
search,
fans.
you have to investigate everything and
Yes.
kind of
question
believe
everything.
nothing.
Yes, exactly. You have to be very judicious. I think especially it's like fun to monitor the social media stuff and like watch the people that are tracking the planes and stuff, but it's like you have to be so careful about everything. And I remember when, not to get on, we don't have to get on a Calipari search tangent, but I remember when we first kind of heard it might be him before it got like reported, I thought somebody was like pulling our leg. Like we had been through so many names at that point of like, they're talking to this person, they're talking to this person. And it kept being no. I was like, at this point, they're just, somebody's trying to trick media and like make reporters look dumb. Like this, like no way. Anyway. That was an interesting experience. But so I mean, coaching search stuff it's crazy. It's fun, but it's also not fun. And I think it's the same way for fans. There's a lot of anxiety, but excitement too. I mean, people are excited to know what the future of their team's going to be, but it's also very stressful.
I don't know who's left to coach the team next week at Tennessee. I mean, they have fired or reportedly fired most of their defensive staff. Travis Williams, Marcus Woodson, Deke Adams all out today, according to Pete Thamel at ESPN. So that's your defensive coordinator, your co-defensive coordinator, which, by the way, I always thought that was such a weird distinction that they made. You've got your defensive coordinator, but he's not really a co-defensive coordinator. But you got this other guy who's a co-defensive coordinator. That was
It's very
weird
strange.
aside. Deke Adams, their defensive line coach. I think Petrino, to me, these felt like these were his call.
Totally.
I think that he's been given the reins for 2 months to say, run this program with oversight, however you think it's best to be run. And obviously the defense has been just terrible. I did not think I would ever see a defense worse than what I saw at Mississippi State last year. The efficiency scores for Mississippi State last year were just through the roof in a bad way. And what we're seeing from Arkansas right now, it's terrible. I mean, in their last 3 games, Ole Miss, Memphis, and Notre Dame, excluding end-of-half kneel-downs, which I don't think those count. Those drives shouldn't count against you. They have only gotten off the field without giving up points 9 times in 30 possessions. And some of those drives included scoring opportunities for the other team, like Notre Dame getting into, they got deep into Arkansas's territory and turned it over on downs. Memphis missed a field goal. So, like, there have been other scoring opportunities. It's as bad a defense as I've ever seen. I don't disagree with letting the coaches go, but I do wonder, like who's going to run this thing when they go to Tennessee next week?
And how much benefit? I mean, it can't get a whole lot worse. How much better can it get? You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't necessarily mean like, oh, you got to just stick it out. Like, I'm not necessarily saying that it was the wrong move to fire these coaches or to make defensive changes in general. But I do wonder, like, how much better can it get in the middle of the season with people who knows who you're going to get? Who do you get to do anything? You got to bring somebody in. The only defensive staff member left is Nick Perry. And he's like, looks like he's my age. He's a great guy. Young, came from the NFL, but like, brand new to the staff, new this year. What do you do? And so I don't know how much better the defense is going to get over this, audition period for Petrino.
They're going to do one of two things. They will either elevate GA analyst type people that are already on the staff, already in the building, to be assistant coaches for the rest of the season, or they're going to go out and they're going to get a free agent. I don't think they're going to be able to get anybody off an existing staff. I don't put anything past anything, but I would be a little surprised if that happened. But the point being, like, whoever comes in here and runs this, you're taking over a team in the middle of the season. You're taking over a unit in the middle of the season, and it's that's a tough deal. Well, we don't know. Is it the players, which I kind of think it is? Like is it the personnel where your defensive players are just out of class? Or is it an effort thing that can be coached? Is it a schematic thing? Maybe it's a combination of the two. But based on, you're playing teams that have players who are going to be playing in the NFL next year. Like, there are players in college football right now who, if they had the opportunity to go to the NFL, they would be starting right now in the NFL. No doubt in my mind. A guy like Jeremiah Smith, the receiver at Ohio State. I mean, he could have maybe been the first overall pick after his freshman year there. And you're asking a defense full of players that are not NFL caliber. Like, what players on Arkansas's defense right now do you think will have an opportunity to have a long NFL career? Not get on a practice roster, not be an undrafted free agent or something in a year or two. There's a lot of people who seem to like Quincy Rhodes, but outside of him, who else on this defense?
And I don't consider him like a sure bet to, like you said, have a long NFL career. I think he definitely has a chance to make it, but I wouldn't say like, that guy, he's going to play. We're going to see him on Sundays for a long time.
And so you're asking players who aren't at the, in a lot of cases, who are not at the caliber of the guy they're lining up across against to play at a high level. I just don't know what a coaching change on defense is going to be. You might get effort out of them. It looked like their effort had been challenged against Notre Dame coming out of halftime the other day, and they had a good first possession, or I guess it was a good first possession. They had the fake punt that was run on them, but they still were able to get off the field. So I think effort can take you a little way, and certainly we feel like that's been lacking this year from the team. But I just don't. I just think that there's so. Use a horse racing analogy here. There's only so fast that horse will go.
Exactly. And also on the effort front, do you think that firing the coaches that recruited and coached and know all these players, a surprise on a Monday morning?
Oh, they're going to be mad that
exactly.
their coaches are gone.
But so does that motivate you to really want to play hard for Bobby Petrino and the GA that got elevated to be your position coach? I don't know. I don't know. But that's something that's on my mind too. It would surprise me if they were like, we're ready to, if that is what inspires effort suddenly.
On the cost front, I mentioned Pittman, about $9.3 million would be the buyout. And he's got about another $1 million that's owed to him in a retention bonus. These three coaches who were reportedly let go today, their buyout would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $2.7 million for the three of them. Now, keep in mind, especially with those three, they have a duty to go find another job. And so you're paying, assuming they get a job next season, and I would think all of them would be able to, you're going to be paying them less money than what the buyout actually says. Now, on Pittman, it's very interesting to me whether or not there's something that gets negotiated here, with him, like think about Mike Neighbors earlier this year. And I always look at other sports. Some people would say, why would you look at other sports? Well, because you're dealing with the same AD. He was paid less money to go away than what the buyout said, and they were able to frame it as a resignation. And I think that some of the conditions that were outlined in his contract, those went away. So Pittman, let's go to Pittman for a second. He has a provision in his contract that says that he's not duty bound to search for another job after he turns 65 years old, which would be in November of next year. I wonder, I don't know if this is happening. This is, again, just a little bit of a hypothetical. Are they able to negotiate something down where they say, look, we'll give you less money, and in exchange for that, you don't have to go find another job, or at least show us that you made an effort to go find another job. You go down to your lake house, you enjoy your retirement.
I mean, it's definitely possible. Like you said, it's the ship has sailed on. You mentioned Neighbors. It was a resignation. That obviously is not the case here. But yeah, I wonder if we'll learn that there are kind of some negotiated terms, because yeah, I mean, there's obviously the question. I can't speak for Sam Pittman and what he wants from life, but does he want to go be an offensive line coach somewhere? Does he want to? I don't know.
You just don't see and this was the thing in the last 3 years. You just didn't see the same fire from him that you saw when he first got the job. And he's had some health stuff with the hip, and,
sure.
and I get it. I'm not at that age, but I know that when you get to a certain age, you're ready to slow down and enjoy your life a little bit more. And I just don't see him being a coach again. I really don't.
And so, yeah, maybe that's something that would be appealing to kind of not have to, like you said, prove that you're looking for another job, not have to go out and kind of go through the circus of interviewing or whatever, or get a job that you don't really want in exchange for a little bit less of that money.
It's still going to be a lot of money.
Yes, yeah.
I just wonder if it's going to be more than 10 million or right around 10 million, whatever that number is. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about the game on Saturday and what we actually saw from the Razorbacks. We'll talk about the bye week. First, a word from Kendall King.
At Kendall King, we're proud of over 4 decades of design. We're continuing the legacy of great creative design by combining our brands of Kendall King, Soapbox, and Shopcart. Together, these brands represent a new focus in marketing design, with individual attention to specific areas. Through our design expertise supported by a team of talented professionals, we showcase our best. We are Kendall King, we are Soapbox, we are Shopcart, we are design.
Hey, welcome back. Wednesday, about our friends at Bentonville Glass. They've been serving their community since 1971. They're committed, professional, and versatile. If you're looking for a quality leader in Northwest Arkansas or looking for skilled craftsmanship, look no further than Bentonville Glass for all your glass market needs with the highest quality products. You can come by and see them at 507 South Main in Bentonville or online at bentonvilleglass.com. I think one of the real reasons that Arkansas decided to make this change over the weekend is that they looked totally what would be the word? They didn't look like they belonged on the same field with Notre Dame. 42-13 at halftime, 56-13 the final score, and it could have been a lot worse. Like, people got on Marcus Freeman, and probably rightfully so, for running a fake punt when he's up by 30.
That was crazy.
In the second half. But they could have run that thing up if they wanted to. I mean, they could have won that game by 60, 70 points. There's no doubt in my mind. They were that much better than Arkansas on that day. Like Sam Pittman said, are they that much better than Arkansas? Should they have been able to embarrass them on their field like that? I don't know. I mean, we saw Arkansas. Ole Miss is number 4 in the AP poll right now. And we saw them be 25 yards away from potentially beating Ole Miss just 2 weeks ago. Sometimes you just don't have it. And sometimes the other team just really brings it. And Notre Dame, you could tell, I felt like from the start of the game on Saturday, they were incredibly locked in. People will say Notre Dame, that might not be a playoff team this year. I don't know what the answer is there, but they're a roster that you expect to compete for the playoffs. And on that day, Arkansas did not look in any shape or form like it ought to be on the – that looked like Arkansas against Alabama A&M, the inverse of it. And to me, it showed you the real – when you talk about – is Arkansas set up to compete for a national championship or any type of championship on a consistent basis? Like that was the embodiment of that.
Yeah.
Like here's a team that they've got a championship level coach, they've got a championship level roster. Whether or not they ever reach that,
win one.
They were that's to be seen. But Like, that's what a championship level program looks like.
Yeah.
And again, Arkansas didn't look like they belonged on the field with them.
Right. It's a program that you expect to see, which is the difference. When we revisited Yurichek's comments a couple days after the Touchdown Club and said, okay, here's what we think he was trying to say. That's kind of what we said. Notre Dame is a program you expect to see in there. You expect to have them in the mix at least. Arkansas is not at that point, and that's kind of what he meant. On a year in and year out basis. And so yeah, I think you're right. I was just really surprised. I figured the defense would look bad because what evidence did I have that it was going to look any better? I just didn't expect the offense to be that way. I didn't expect Notre Dame. Notre Dame's defense stepped up in a way that it hadn't before. It played better than it had in the previous games, but I think Arkansas's offense also kind of, in some ways, played worse than it had. So that was what the biggest surprise to me was just I thought it was going to be, like we said, high scoring for both teams. No, for one, and that was what we got.
People are enamored with Arkansas's offense. They're enamored with the yards and everything. And I told people this last year. I said, you got to quit calling them the 10th best offense. They rank 10th in total offense. You can't call this the 10th best offense in the country. It's not.
Yeah.
You can't say they rank 10th nationally in offense. And I guess they did in this
Offensive
one stat.
yardage, yeah.
But yardage doesn't mean anything. Yardage doesn't mean
talked about that all last
thing
year, yeah.
if you don't have the points to
And they were
accompany
turning it into points early, and then they started playing better teams, and then they started having second halves where they didn't turn it into points at all.
I think people have been enamored with them playing some poor defensive teams. And I said this last week. The numbers suggested that Notre Dame was not as bad defensively. Like when you really started to dig into it, they had been on the field so much that I did not think they were as bad defensively as the points per game might have indicated. And there was also a special teams touchdown in there that they had given up, which inflated that a little bit. That's one I kind of a little side note pet peeve of mine. Some of these stats, I feel like we just get too caught up on them, like total offense, points per game allowed. There are so many things, or points per game scored. I mean, think about Alabama when they had Nick Saban as their coach. They'd average like 10 non-offensive touchdowns a year. And think about how much that would elevate the points per game. You got to be careful looking at stats like that. And but like I said, that's an aside. I've felt with Arkansas, and I've been saying it increasingly the last few weeks. I liked what they did the first half against Ole Miss. Second half, that looked bad.
Yeah.
Against Memphis, I kind of take that with a little bit of grain of salt because I don't think Memphis is very good defensively, at least not relative to what a roster with better athletes looks like. And then Notre Dame again. When they finally, I feel like that was the case the other day, where they finally saw really good defensive athletes on the other side, and they just got shut down. For all the concerns there are about Arkansas's defense, I think there should be a lot of concerns about their offense right now, not producing, not scoring at an efficient enough clip. Based on the numbers I've got them as the 7th most efficient offense in the SEC, and that number's been going down the last couple of weeks.
And the second half, they've just disappeared in the second half of the last few games, and that's
was it 10 points in the second half of the last three games?
Yeah. The last game, their only touchdown was Shaq McRoy, was an offensive lineman, and I saw somebody. What?
Go ahead.
I saw somebody tweet about it's kind of a shame that touchdown kind of didn't get its due. It didn't get Shaq McRoy didn't get his flowers because of everything else that was so bad. Because that was a cool play or whatever. But when it's your only offensive, when it's your only touchdown, not your only offensive, your only touchdown, that's not what you want. That's not a recipe for success. And so I think
about this: the last touchdown of the Sam Pittman era was scored by an offensive lineman. How poetic is that? That
is poetic for sure. I hadn't thought about it. That's crazy.
That was the. Do you know the last time an Arkansas offensive lineman scored a touchdown?
It wasn't Tretola, was it?
No, he threw for a touchdown.
Oh, duh.
And he threw it to a long snapper.
Yeah, was that the long snapper that I was going to say has a long snapper caught a touchdown at Arkansas before or after that?
Probably
definitely not after.
Not after. I know that.
Who was it? The last offensive?
It was Sean Andrews.
Oh.
In 2003, he actually scored touchdowns in back-to-back weeks. Both of them, obviously 1-yard touchdown runs.
Yeah.
But they did it against New Mexico State, and it worked. And so they brought it back the next week against Mississippi State. So he had 2 rushing touchdowns in 2003. So
I would have guessed there was a more recent one. That's interesting.
No. I mean, you could make a case maybe for Jason Peters on some of those teams, but he was technically a tight end.
Right.
He's an offensive lineman playing tight end.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was first time in 22 years that an Arkansas offensive lineman had scored a touchdown. I tell you, they're going to Tennessee in a couple of weeks. I know Tennessee struggled with Mississippi State the other day, beat them in overtime. Unless Petrino and whoever's coaching defense can pull a rabbit out of their hat, Tennessee, I just feel like for as ugly as what Notre Dame did to Arkansas, I could see it being way worse against Tennessee because that offense is really, really good. They're going to be motivated and they're going to be coming off a bye week too. They don't play this weekend.
Yeah, I'd be curious. You haven't run your your efficiency ratings, right? I know you're not publishing them yet
For Tennessee?
For the SEC, because I know you haven't updated them from last week. Because I know you haven't
Yeah.
published them yet because Texas still hasn't played an SEC game, right? And so we're waiting for that. But I'm curious. Kind of, I know we've gone over on the last couple of Monday shows where everybody stacks up, but I figured you.
Offensively, Tennessee would be number 4
Okay.
behind Vanderbilt, Ole Miss, and Missouri.
Okay. And we
And
saw what
then,
Ole Miss did.
Defensively, Tennessee's not very good. They're just ahead of Arkansas. Well, I say just ahead of Arkansas. There's a very big gap.
It's a large
But
gap.
Tennessee's 14th in the SEC defensively.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's gonna be a really interesting game. I'm excited to go to that one. But yeah, it's funny. After the Notre Dame game, before we were sure that there was gonna be staff change, I was kind of wondering. I was like, should I still go on the trips I have planned? Do we want to save a little money on the road trip front? And now it's like, well, gonna want to go and see all of Bobby's audition tapes for the next for the rest of the year. So it's definitely gonna be worth it, I think.
Let's see, Ole Miss. I think they've all of a sudden become the favorite, or not the favorite in the SEC, but a favorite. And it's really weird because the preseason expectations for them were much lower this season, and I'm not so sure that they don't have a better team right now than they had with that team that tried to will its way into the playoff last year.
Yeah, I think they're the highest ranked SEC team in the AP
They're number
poll
4.
this
It's the highest ranking they've ever had under Lane
week.
Kiffin.
That's crazy. It surprises me that they haven't that's not their highest ranking they've had in a long, long time.
Well, they were number 1. Remember they had that week where they and Mississippi State both were number 1?
Yes, you're right. I forgot
The
about
Jackson
that.
Clarion Ledger.
What year was that?
Would have been 2014.
Okay, yeah.
Dak was at Mississippi State,
Yeah.
Ole Miss. That's when Hugh Freeze was their coach. And the Jackson Clarion Ledger had the best headline I've ever seen.
What was it?
It said 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi.
Oh, that's
Because they
awesome.
were 1 and
That's
2 in the poll.
fantastic.
But or maybe they were 1A and 1B. I can't remember if they were tied
Mm-hmm.
for number 1 or not. But yeah, so I mean it's been a long time since they've had a ranking that is this high. I'll say this too. After watching Saturday, like Jeremiah Love is up there on my list of Heisman candidates. I mean, it's one thing to see somebody on TV. It's another thing to actually see it happening in person. And granted, he wasn't playing a very strong defense at all, but sometimes good players can make defensive players look bad.
Yeah.
And I think there was a little bit of that going on too.
Yeah, I don't know Notre Dame's schedule off the top of my head, so I don't know.
I know they've got Boise next.
I was gonna say I don't know who the best remaining defense they have is, but I'll be interested, how that goes. They obviously played really good defenses early in the year and had those losses, but I'll be curious as the season goes on. Is this kind of a turning point for them? Is this where it kind of turns and goes right for them? After those early losses, I don't know, because I don't remember. I think their schedule is pretty favorable because I remember when you spoke with the Notre Dame reporter on the podcast last week, he was kind of saying that it was kind of a 4-game schedule, and once you get past the Arkansas game, it's pretty favorable for the rest of the way out. So if they can, it could be that this Arkansas game was where they turn the corner and they start having the season they thought they were going to have.
I would say very favorable.
Yeah.
I mean, they may win out, Christina.
Oh, boy.
This is their schedule the rest of the way. They've got Boise at home.
Okay.
NC State at home. They did not look good against a Virginia Tech with an interim coach the other day. Southern Cal is their hardest remaining game, but that's going to be in South Bend. And we saw this over the weekend. That cross-country flight didn't
I don't
seem
trust
to.
Southern Cal at all.
No, and they're not a great defensive team. And then after that, they finish the month of November with 5 games against Boston College. Not a great team. Navy, they should win that. Pitt. At Pitt, I would think that they'd be favored to win there. Yeah. Syracuse has been real up and down. They were real down this last weekend. And then Stanford's horrible.
Yeah.
I could see a 10-2 Notre Dame team.
Yeah.
I could see what happened on Saturday really kickstarting them and getting them, give them a playoff push.
Yeah, we'll see. It would be quite a narrative.
Out of all of those games, I would say Southern Cal is really the one game.
That's the biggest
Maybe
one.
Boise.
Yeah.
Boise still
They're
seems
not-
like they're not as good this
Yeah.
year as they were last year. But I also think a lot of people are looking at Boise through the South Florida lens, what happened to them at the beginning of the season. I think South Florida's a pretty darn good team. But
That's true.
I would say Southern Cal, that's really that's their real tough game left.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to track. I like Marcus Freeman, so we'll see.
As for Arkansas, going back to the efficiency ratings for a second, they look like a 0-8 SEC team. Like these are the type of numbers that I was seeing from Mississippi State last year. And it's early, and early games can skew things, and now you've got
Bobby
the
Petrino.
well, I mean, now you've got the coaching change, and so I still look at the numbers. I don't know if I trust them as much for at least a couple of
Right.
weeks after Tennessee's going to tell us a lot about whether or not, hey, was that a wake-up call or is that just a new person on the sideline?
Yeah.
But the numbers that I see right now, I would say the only game that I think, 2 games that I think are winnable for them based on what I've seen so far are Auburn and Mississippi State.
Yeah.
And I think Auburn and Mississippi State both are better teams.
That Auburn game is going to be very
Auburn
interesting.
can't score.
Yeah.
That's the one thing. Like those are the teams. Mississippi State can score. Tennessee can score. A&M can score. Texas, we'll see. I mean, like they haven't played anybody since week 1, so I don't really know what we're dealing with there. Missouri can score. The 2 games that are kind of interesting to me are Auburn because they can't score, and LSU is just really offensively challenged. Now,
Yeah.
maybe playing Arkansas that takes the lid off, but the fact that those 2 teams have had such trouble scoring, those would be a couple of games in addition to Mississippi State playing here because I don't know that they're real good defensively. Those are the games that I could see Arkansas maybe being able to be in it. The other ones, I don't.
Yeah.
I don't
And
really see them having a chance.
Yeah, I had circled those before the season, even when we thought Arkansas might be a bowl team and stuff, as those being their most winnable SEC games. But yeah, I don't know at this point what it's going to look like. Like you said, the Tennessee game is going to tell us a lot because it'll be our first, look at what this is going to be with whatever the defensive staff is and with Bobby Petrino in charge. So
We have no idea.
no idea.
This is the weirdest feeling I've ever had. I've covered the team for 20 years, and I've never gone into a week like this where we've had coaching changes. We've seen coaching changes, but where you just don't know who like half of your assistant coaching staff is.
Yeah.
Because not only do you have to replace those 3 defensive coaches, you got to find an offensive coordinator. Now, Petrino might be calling the plays, but maybe you got to find a new quarterback coach. You still have to have an assistant that gets elevated into that role. So for all intents and purposes, right now, there are 4 assistant coaching jobs open for a team in the middle of the season that have to get filled in the middle of the season. I've never seen anything like that.
I was going to say, is that as unprecedented as I think it is? Because, Oklahoma State's interim fired its defensive coordinator earlier this week. I mean, but the sweeping nature of the defensive staff changes for Arkansas, firing 3 coaches and not, they haven't announced those firings, so they haven't announced what the plan is. But actually, you know what? They have.
Okay.
This is news on the podcast. I just went to ArkansasRazorbacks.com to check if they have put a release out. It is not in my inbox, but it is on their website. You have to scroll down. It's not the lead.
Yeah, I see it right here.
Chris Wilson will take over defensive play calling duties as the team's interim defensive coordinator. Che Hendricks will coach the team's safeties. Colby Smith will take over offensive coordinator duties, while Coach Petrino continues to call plays during games.
Wow. Okay.
So there's your answers.
So Colby Smith, just real quick before we get out of here because we're running out of time. Colby Smith, who's been the running backs coach, played for Petrino at Louisville. He's going to be offensive coordinator. Che Hendricks is going to be the safeties coach. He's the one who came. His son, Hank Hendricks, is the starting quarterback at Fayetteville High, who's like a 4 or 5 star prospect. He was a high school head coach last season. He's been kind of in a support staff role. And then Chris Wilson is going to be the defensive coordinator. He was most recently a defensive coordinator for the Houston Roughnecks in the United Football League this past spring. Wow. Okay. Well, hey, as you can tell, we're going to have a lot on our site this
It's gonna be a long
afternoon. WholeHogSports.com. This is one of those days where things are going to be changing a lot throughout the day. So be sure to check us out there, or be back on our podcast tomorrow. We'll have plenty to talk about after this press conference with Bobby Petrino and Hunter Yurachek this afternoon. Appreciate you being with us. Hope we see you again.